Hello and welcome to Russ Plays Games. My name is Russ, and as you can see, I am not sitting in front of my movie wall. That's right, I am in Kansas visiting my girlfriend. I'm wearing my Dragon t-shirt. I do not have a movie next to me because, again, not sitting in front of my movie wall. And so I wanted to kind of do this sort of thrift store episode because but I'm going to kind of talk about something here that I think is extremely important. This is a company called Creepy Prints. They are on Etsy. They are a wonderful little company. They have a bunch of really interesting 3D prints that they do. And so I was looking at, and if you've been on my channel for a number of times, you'll know that I am doing, or trying to do, the Elder Scrolls Call to Arms. I've painted Hadvar, an Imperial Mage. I've been painting Rayloff. I don't think I've gotten that video up yet. I need to get it up. I know it's almost 2025 as of recording this, and so for me it's kind of interesting to look at it and see that it's just kind of, one of those things. But if you've looked at Modiphius's website, you'll notice that they have a dragon, Mirmulnir, which is one of the first dragons that you fight when you play in Skyrim. And I was talking with my girlfriend, and we were kind of talking about how expensive it was and how there might be some kind of a proxy alternative that we might be able to do just to kind of do something a little bit different. And we came up with this dragon miniature. It's a wyvern from Creepy Prints. And so, as you can see, this is the torso of it, okay? And it needs a little bit of cleanup. You can kind of see that there's this little mark right here. There's also kind of a little bit around his, kind of where his neck comes in. This is the head of the dragon. You can see how detailed that is. They fit together much like that, okay? And what I was surprised with is that, I mean, this thing is going to need almost no, like, green stuff or milliput or anything like that to make it seamless. These are the legs. The bottom legs, they will go something like so. It needs a little bit of cleanup too, but and because the supports and stuff. But anyway, the legs will go on like that. This is the tail right here. Let me put the torso down for a second. But this is the tail. You can see the nice big kind of like bone protruding out of here. And this is going to be a project that my girlfriend and I are actually going to do when we get to this. And this is the base of it. As you can see, there's, it's a nice big base. It's actually hollow. And then pretty much the tail kind of sits, kind of on there like that. And that's how it's going to mount. And then the torso will go on there. Okay. And then one of the final things that I'll kind of show off here is that here's the wings. And I want you to pay particular attention to the detail on the wings. Like, it's very, very leathery texture to it. Okay, it's kind of hard to see, but like there's a very leathery texture to it. Like, it's actually built into the print. So it actually has that sort of like leathery sort of dragon style print to it. And what's interesting is that once I put the wings kind of on, you can see just how big this guy is going to be. I mean, it's absolutely huge. And then the other wing, and then the other wing kind of goes on like that. So you can kind of see, like if I hold it back, you can kind of see how big the wingspan actually is. It's huge. And so my girlfriend and I, we've been trying to start a channel together. We're going to try to do a channel. We're going to call it Sunflower and Sasquatch. And we haven't put anything up on a channel yet. We've kind of been busy with other things. We've had things going on, so we just haven't had a chance to do that. So, coming in 2025, there is a chance that I might be moving out here to Kansas kind of in the middle of the year. I'm playing it by ear at this point. I'm not trying to rush anything. I've got some things that have to happen first before any of that goes down. So we'll see if it actually happens, but if it does, then this is going to be something that my girlfriend and I are actually going to do, because one of the cool things that we're going to do is because these are hefty, these are solid resin, we're going to pin those wings together. And she has an airbrush, she has some other stuff that we've been looking at, and so she and I have kind of come up with the idea that we're going to sit down and we're going to go through this together, okay? And we're going to make that, and then hopefully one of these times I'm going to try to find the stats for Mjolnir, or if they have another dragon that they might have on Modiphius' website. I'm going to see if I can find the card set that has that. And if they do, or if they just have it online, then I'm going to try to see if I can get a hold of them. And I'm going to try to print them off, and then, or try to, like I said, get a hold of the cards somehow, and then I'm going to basically have the sort of Western Watchtower encounter as sort of like the Dragonborn, and then I'll have like a bunch of the Imperial troops running around, and maybe if I can try to get a hold of Irileth, or try to get something that kind of looks like Irileth to go with my Dragonborn figure, then that might be kind of fun too. Just because I don't have Whiterun guards at this point, and I don't know that I really want to buy Whiterun guards at this point, so we'll see what happens. Alright, now to the Thrift Store Finds. And there's one other thing. Because I'm going to be running the Skyrim Civil War, I have a video that's going to go up on Elder Scrolls Call to Arms that's going to kind of take place around the escape from Helgen. Okay? It's a tutorial thing that Modiphius put together to kind of help you learn the game, kind of help you learn some of the different ways of doing things. I have a bunch of things. I just have to edit all of the footage together. Once I get all of that stuff put together, my hope is that I can actually put everything in, and we can kind of make it a decent thing. And then what I'm hoping is that once I get everything done, my hope is that I'm going to be able to go and get go and do the Skyrim Civil War. Now, there is one part of the Skyrim Civil War that they don't have a scenario for, but it's an important part of the Skyrim Civil War, and if you've played Skyrim, you know what the Skyrim Civil War is. You know that part that I'm talking about. It's the Siege of Whiterun. And so I was talking with my girlfriend, and she'd never played Skyrim, so when I talk about some of this stuff, she doesn't really understand. But I brought Skyrim with me, and we sat down, and I played through it, and I showed her, like, what the City of Whiterun is. And I said, wouldn't this be awesome to make this as an actual thing? And she and I both kind of looked at it, and we went, ooh, maybe. So we'll see what happens. Now, to the Thrift Store Finds, I found this, Clue the DVD game. If you have watched Cam Sandwich at all, you'll know that he did some like video board games episode. One he did not cover was Clue, and one he covered. I'm gonna cover a little later. I'm gonna kind of talk about it in 2025 a little bit. I think I've been meaning to cover it. He kind of glossed over it. I was hoping that he was going to actually cover it a little bit more. But it's Star Wars the Interactive Video Board Game and Star Trek the Interactive Video Board Game. So here's your board of the mansion. Okay. What's interesting about this game is that, and there's the full instruction manual. This is a mostly complete. I would say it's about 90% complete. What's interesting about this is that there's 10 cases on the DVD, and then there's a scorecard right there, so you can keep track of what case or cases you play, and then who won. Okay, who figured it out. You have your typical pad of paper that gives you all of your people. So in this one, instead of just having who did it, in what room, and with what weapon, in this one you have suspects, locations, time, and items. Okay? And so you have all of your little cards that have like the suspects. Okay? You have your items. You have your times, like lunchtime. And then you have your locations, like the fountain. Stuff like that. And so there's a whole bunch of different things in here. And so what you do is you figure out like what location, what item, what person, and what time. And what did they steal? I guess it's more of like if you've ever played Clue the Great Museum Caper. I know I haven't really discussed that too much in depth on this channel. I should probably do a video on that. So that was an actual game where if you were the it had every single person in it, like the typical Clue people in it. But instead of trying to figure out who did what, where, when, how, all that stuff. So yeah, you have your... I'll show you that you have your typical... you have your typical 6 characters. So you have Mr. Green, of course. You have Mrs. Peacock. You have Miss Scarlet. You have Professor Plum. You have Colonel Mustard. And you have Mrs. White. But you have 4 new characters. You have Prince Azure. You have Rusty. You have Mrs. Meadowbrook. And you have Lady Lavender. Okay? And essentially, and then you have all your different places. You have like dining room, billiard room, study, lounge, conservatory, ballroom, rose garden, library, hall, kitchen, fountain. So back to what I was saying about the previous one. So essentially, in Clue the Great Museum Caper, what you have is that on the grounds of the Body Mansion, and I think this took place before the murder of Mr. Body, or maybe it was a little after the murder of Mr. Body, but basically they have the Body Art Museum, and it has all these famous historical paintings. And the story goes is that Colonel Mustard was out walking around, and he happened to see somebody slipping into the museum. So he wakes up the other people, and they go down to see if they can find out who this guy is and why he's trying to steal art. And so essentially it's a 7-player game. It's for 2 to 7 players. And essentially what ends up happening is that one person plays the thief and everybody else plays the people that are trying to catch the thief. Now the thief has a hidden movement mechanic where you actually have a pad of paper similar to this, but it has a map of the museum on it. And you essentially, as the person, as the thief, you move around in secret until somebody gets into the room where you're at, and at that point they reveal you, and then you have to escape. Okay? And you don't take paintings off the board until after you steal them. And so essentially what you're doing is you move in, you steal stuff, and then you move out and you try to see where is that one locked? Is that one unlocked? And you have these little locks, and I'll show you. They don't look like this, but they essentially kind of look the same as this. Okay, but on the back of them, instead of being just a plastic little lock, they set over a little like platform, and then on that platform, it essentially, you pull it open, and then it will have an O or an L. L for locked, or U for unlocked, I think. Or O for open, one of the two. And so, anyway, the items you have in the game, you have a spyglass, you have a gold pen, you have the revolver, you have the rare book, you have the billfold, you have the scarab brooch, you have the letter opener, you have the crystal paperweight, you have the medal, you have the jade hairpin, and you have the pocket watch. And then for times, you have breakfast, dawn, dusk, midnight, night, early afternoon, tea time, dinner, late morning, and lunch. And so essentially what you do is you shuffle up all of the cards individually, okay? All the decks. So you shuffle up the suspects, the locations, the time, and the items, and you pick one at random from each one of those, and you put them in the case file, okay? So essentially, it's just like the case file that you would have on any other Clue game, right? Okay, you slip your cards in there, and then you put that in the middle of the board, just like you would in any other Clue game. Now, this uses a pretty interesting mechanic that if you're familiar with the original Transformers, the Generation 1 Transformers, you'll probably recognize this. It's not a magnifying glass, it's just a piece of red plastic. And if you ever remember that the original Transformers, on the box, they had a little red area with a whole bunch of stats on it, and then it gave you it was on the box, and it gave you a little red strip of plastic that you would set over that thing, and then a blue line would appear that would show you what their stats were, okay? That's essentially what this does, okay? And what's cool is that on the back, or in the back of this manual, okay, it has an entire red area, and I'm not going to show it off too much because this thing kind of will blank out some of the red so that you can kind of read some of the text. But essentially, it will give you a thing where you can actually read what it says. So this essentially has some of the clues and some of the different things for the different cases, okay, that are on the DVD. And this also has the inspector's notebook, which kind of gives you some different ideas for how the game is played, how things are done, stuff like that. Now, there's one last part that I kind of wanted to touch on here. So, like, for instance, here's, like, Miss Azure. Here's Mrs. Meadowbrook. Here's Mrs. White. She's in kind of like a maid's costume. Here's Professor Plum. Colonel Mustard. And I think this is Mr. Green. Right here. And so, and I'm missing like 5 of the characters, or 4 of the characters. Actually, I've got 6 characters in here, and there's 10 characters in total. Okay, and then there's a rogues gallery inside the front cover right there. Okay, of all the different people. And so essentially, yeah, I'm missing a few of those, and so I'm gonna have to go out on eBay, and I'm gonna have to grab those extra guys that I'm missing, or I may just buy a whole set of them, and then I may just have the extra pieces in there just to have them as a little thing. But that is Clue, the DVD game that I got, and I got it for, I think it was 25 cents at one of the thrift shops, and because they had like one of those sales, and whenever you're out looking around, if you go to like a Salvation Army, you go to a a Goodwill, something like that. You're going to see that they have, in a sense, they will have sales because they'll have like little tags on everything, and those tags will have like things on them. And so like if you look around, sometimes it'll say things like blue 75% off, orange 50% off. So you look for those tags and you try to see when they're going to have sales on certain things, and then you go in there when they're having those sales and you pick up stuff. So I happened to get this Clue DVD game for 25 cents because at the local Salvation Army here, they had that game. That tag was on that game that was only like 25 cents. So it was normally like, $2 or $3, but I got it for 25 cents. So it's like, hey, why not? Now, this one was $2, and this was a steal of a deal, folks. Okay? This is an original 1981 copy of the Game of Life. Now, what's amazing about this is not the fact that it's a copy of the Game of Life. It's a near unblemished copy of the Game of Life. There's like a little bit of damage on a couple of the corners, but for the most part, this thing is in mint factory condition. I'm not joking with you when I say that either. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out some of this stuff first. Okay, and then I'm going to show you the board, and then I'll kind of repack the box on top of it. Okay. Because I was surprised at this. I didn't even realize it when I was sitting in the store. I just kind of looked to see if it had all the components, and I just happened to notice that that there was like a bag of components in here, and I'm like, wait, has this never been played before? Yeah, this thing's been sitting around for like 43 years at this point, almost 44 years at this point. So here's the board. Notice anything about the board? No stickers. That's right. A complete in-box copy, okay, of the Game of Life. Here's the bottom of the box. I know it's kind of hard to look at, but I mean, it's like this thing's in pristine condition. So here's the numbers where you put up your little like life tokens if you want to gamble, okay, because it corresponds to the numbers on the spinner. And I'll show you the components here in a minute, but this spinner is in like almost mint condition. There's a little bit of yellowing on it. You can kind of tell. I mean, it looks white on the camera, but there's a little tiny bit of yellowing on it. It doesn't look quite the same as it used to. Let's just put it that way. Like when it was first probably made, it was probably like pristine white. If you've ever seen the Game of Life like in the store and you bought it and you saw it there at the at the thing or whatever. At this point, there we go. All right. But yeah, and so there's the spinner, and then like here's there's a thing. Now what's interesting is it says right there, it says apply a drop of mineral oil to spinner support. So essentially what they're saying is that you put just a little bit of mineral oil, and that keeps it kind of greased so that when you're spinning it, it spins fluid, right? Okay. So let me put these back in the box. Now this surprised the hell out of me. Okay. There's the stickers. Okay, with all the little spaces on them and all the little things on them. Okay. And then here's the instructions on how to assemble it. And I mean, these things are in perfect condition. I mean, these aren't bent or creased or anything, mutilated, nothing. I mean, this whole thing, it's almost like somebody bought it, opened it up, and then decided, I'm not going to play it right now, stuck it away, and then promptly forgot about it, and then like years later, maybe they passed away, maybe somebody was like, well, hey, if we're never going to use it, we're just going to get rid of it because, you know, we or maybe they bought a newer version and they thought, we'll just get rid of this. Oh, and for those of you who do like Cam Sandwich, and you watched his video on the 1970s version of the Game of Life, they do have an orphanage square right here. It's not the same thing because the thing is in the original Game of Life, from the 1970s version of Life, okay, the spaces where you could send people back, the Sioux spaces, I think they were called, you don't do that now. You don't send people backwards. The Revenge is just a sue for damages square now. That's all it is. So, in a sense, the orphanage is there, but they lowered the amount. So you only pay $60,000 in this game. Okay? So they lowered the amount from $80,000 to $60,000, and then they didn't make it to where you could send people back, if that makes sense. So you don't move people back 10 spaces, right? So there's that. And then this is the box that all of your money and cards come in. And again, in perfect frickin' condition. Now, I haven't actually, I've been a little afraid to take these off because I didn't want to damage the stuff. But, like, there is a whole, there's a whole bunch of cards in here. There's, like, Share the Wealth and exemption cards and various things like that you get at different points. And then, yeah, the money, let me pull these out gently here. With the exception of a couple of bills on the top here that have a little bit of damage, have a little bit of creasing, they're in perfect condition. And then you have like this little piece of cardboard that sits in between the money, just to keep them separate. But essentially, I mean, everything is in perfect condition. I mean, it is absolutely beautiful. This thing is in really good condition. Okay. All right, let me put this back in here. And now for the pièce de résistance. The original bag of components. And as you can see the little blue pegs and the little pink pegs in there. Yeah, they're still on the sprues. This bag has never been opened. Everything is in pristine order. All the buildings are in there. The little white mound that goes up, the little kind of bridge that goes up over the thing. All the little tiny cars are all in there. Their colors are still in really good condition. They're still bright. That's the little spinner thingy right there that my finger's pointing to. That's the little spinner that goes in that little hole right there. Okay, it pops into that little hole. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't believe it when I got this thing for like $2. And I'm not joking, I got this thing for like $3 at the thrift store. And then all your instructions are on the inside of the box. I couldn't believe it when I got it. I was like, there is no way. There is no flipping way. And I think I got it for like $3. Okay. That was at a half-price Books up north of where I'm at right now, where my girlfriend lives. And saw this game. I did not know this game existed. Okay. This is Batman Begins Shadow Assault. Okay. And essentially, this is the recreating the end of Batman Begins. Okay. This was made back in 2005. It's kind of interesting. What's cool about this is I'm missing one component. And honestly, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, I could probably make one just find a little Batman Begins logo, and Bat logo, and then throw it into like an MS Paint, and then print it off, and then just like make a few. But this is Gotham City, the game board. You have all these little health bars here, and then you have these 4 different colors here. I'll explain what those do here in a second, but essentially what happens is that you can play this game with 2 to 5 people, okay? 4 people can play Batman, up to 4 people can play Batman, and 1 person plays Ra's al Ghul. Ra's al Ghul gets control of these little ninja guys, okay? They all have the same pose, but there's 20 of them in here, okay? I'll kind of bring up the box so you can kind of see where the components go. But you can see, these are all the ninjas, and then there's 2 of them up here. Okay? And then you have, essentially, 3 combat dice, okay? And 1 movement die, okay? And then you have 4 different poses of Batman. This is the yellow pose. It's kind of swooping down out of the night, as he's wont to do. Let me put these off to the side for 1 second here. This is the purple pose. Sort of standing there looking epic. This is the blue pose. He's kicking a dude in the head. Or maybe in the body. And then this is the orange pose. He's sort of getting ready to punch somebody, or he's running, one of the 2. Or he's getting ready to throw a batarang. He has a batarang in his hand. I don't know if you can see that very well, but there you go. There's a batarang. He's got like a batarang. He's ready to throw it at people. Okay. And then there's, of course, the instruction manual. Now, essentially, you have these little tokens, and what these tokens do is they keep track of health. So, like, here's the orange Batman symbol. They have the yellow Batman symbol, the blue Batman symbol. I'm missing the purple Batman symbol, and then they have, this is the microwave emitter. So if you remember from the movie, right, Ra's al Ghul took the fear toxin that Scarecrow had invented, right, played by Cillian Murphy, and essentially what they were going to do is tear Gotham apart through fear, okay? And so the movie essentially has, or the game essentially has these ninjas who run around and try to stop Batman. Now, the in-universe explanation is that the ninjas are a little confused because Batman is popping up in different places seemingly almost at the same time, which is why you have 4 Batmen, okay? And that's why you have the 4 people who play Batman, is because they're running around and you're essentially trying to attack and destroy the microwave emitter before you have an opportunity to get Ra's al Ghul, to thwart the plans of Ra's al Ghul. And if Batman essentially has 16 health, because there's 4 Batman and then there's 4. He has 4 health essentially. Okay, so if we look at the sort of like we look at the board, right? Okay, so we have down here. We have this. This is the health of the emitter, okay? And this is essentially Gotham Tower, or Wayne Tower, at the center of Gotham City, right? And then you have, here's the purple health, here's the yellow health, and then the purple starting point, the yellow starting point, and then down here you have the orange and the blue, and then you have the orange and blue starting locations. And then essentially, I think where the red squares are is where all of the ninjas spawn, okay? So essentially, that's where all of the ninjas are, and then the Batmen move around and they beat up the ninjas, and then they have to get to the center and they have to try to attack the microwave emitter. And if they damage it, if they get it 10 health before all of the Batmen are reduced to 0 health or hit 4, I think it starts at 0 and goes up to 4. So if all four Batman get 4 damage, Ra's al Ghul wins. If the microwave emitter gets 10 damage, then Batman wins, if that makes sense. So it's essentially you play as Batman and one person plays as Ra's al Ghul, and you essentially just fly around the city and beat up ninjas, and as ninjas you try to beat up Batman. And so it'll be interesting to see how that game plays. So probably won't get to it for a while because I've got stuff I've got to do, and it's essentially staying here because I'm not going to ship it all the way over to Washington State with me. So anyway, that was my thrift store haul. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think of this thrift store series. And as we say, we will see you on the next one. All right. Sorry, stop recording.